FTC gonna do what the FTC gonna do.
Right.
Yeah, that was a weird intro, but you know what? We're gonna roll with it.
Yeah. So it's funny. I in writing that the article about this event, I just started off with my own little editorializing. I'm like, this is very clearly based on news that Microsoft didn't come out and say this, but sources close to Microsoft said that, Activision and Microsoft might have found a path forward where they just ignore the UK and merge anyway, because who cares? And I'm like, it's pretty clear to me that this action was designed in part to prevent that from happening, because the UK CMA and the FTC are working very closely together on this stuff. And the filing actually just says that. It literally, yep, that is exactly what it is. It's like, I almost called it jokingly, the legal version of like we're worried that they're going to flee the country, so we have to hold them,
Take their passport.
And of course that is illegal. So anyway, but it is sort of like that flight risk kind of thing. We're just going to prevent something stupid from happening.
Well, if you want to make sure only good things happen, Paul Threat, Fortra's Alert Logic offers the most comprehensive managed detection and response coverage for public cloud, software as a service, and on-premises and hybrid environments. To learn more about Alert Logic, visit alertlogic.com. Links in the description, as always. I did it. Segue.
What did you do? Oh, you segued. Yeah. No, you're good at that.
Yeah.
I don't know how that's a marketable skill exactly, but
yeah, I'm still waiting to figure that out myself.
But it's good. I don't know,
what else is happening in the world of whatever?
Well, there's this AMD thing. So everybody knows Microsoft's. Maybe you heard the AI thing. I don't know if you were asleep that month. But Microsoft is trying to move Windows toward a world in which AI is a big thing, right? And so the only major example, and it's not a major example, but the only real world example of AI in Windows right now is something called Windows Studio Effects. And it's just it's Microsoft's version of the very standard webcam capabilities where you can blur your background and have your eyes track even if you're looking to the side and all that, whatever that kind of stuff is. Thing is, it requires what Microsoft calls an MPU. So that software only works on, I was going to say Qualcomm-based, but ARM-based Windows PCs. So Microsoft Surface Pro X or whatever, Surface 9, 5G, whatever, et cetera, et cetera. But we know that AMD, Intel, et cetera, are all working on this stuff as well. And so back at CES, AMD announced something called Ryzen Pro 7040 series for mobile PCs. And that chipset is now shipping, and new PCs are coming out. I blew it. I actually had a choice when I reviewed the HP Elite book. I want to call 865 or 845, 16 or 14 inch. I chose the 16 inch just to do something different. But the 14 inch comes with AMD, and it has this chipset in it, and I could have experienced it. So I have to go back and ask, see if I can get that. But anyway, basically, this is the first chipset on the x86 side to include integrated, what Microsoft calls MPU capabilities. Everyone has a different name for it. AMD is calling their chips or their code the AI engine, whatever. But I would think by the end of this year, certainly by the end of CES next year, this is just going to be basic capability for every x86 processor. So it's coming. We know it's coming in Meteor Lake on the Intel side, but I know this is the first time it's shipped on x86.
Yeah, cool. Which brings up an interesting point. I think the last time we kind of ever talked about this goes way back, is if you're going to buy a new CPU, you and I used to say, make sure it's quad core. That's how long we've been doing it. It's like,
that's right.
Make sure it's quad core.
Yeah.
Right now might be actually a really terrible time to buy a high-end processor because we're waiting for this NPU stuff to come online. Like if you're going to go buy an i9, whatever, 1300K or whatever the highest end Intel is these days, you might not be getting. Yeah,
it's like buying a dual core CPU the year that the quad core were coming out for free. The MPU stuff. I really like the name MPU. I kind of wish the market would rally around that, but whatever you want to call it. You could be in an interesting position where you have a high-end GPU and CPU and workstation class PC, but you can't handle these like kind of AI workloads. They just won't work. They'll be very slow. If you need a PC, buy a PC. But if you're on the fence or you're not sure what you want to do over the next year, I will wait and see what happens both this holiday season and at CES early next year. I think it's going to be across the board, you know. And obviously, you don't buy a thing like this because of Windows Studio Effects. I mean, who cares? Like, that's not the point. The point is only that that's what's in Windows now. What's coming to Windows, however, is Copilot and other things, I'm sure, that will be AI based. You're going to see stuff in like the Photos app. You're going to see AI kind of throughout the system. So these chipsets are going to make a huge difference for that kind of stuff, and may in fact be the difference between using them and not using them, depending on the capability. So yeah, I mean, this is, we've reached another line in the sand. Which makes that Windows 11 hardware
12.
Requirement kind of goofy, doesn't it? Yeah, exactly.
Which seems kind of like the natural inflection point for all this stuff.
Yep. I was actually I blurted this out on a Windows Weekly very early this year, and then I talked it back, and then I thought about it, and I said, you know what? My original version was, what if Windows 12 requires this AI chipset, right? And they're not going to do that, obviously, but they will enable or make certain features better if you have the MPU, as I'll call it. And I think that is the dividing line. You were away during WWDC, so we would have talked about this. Stephen Batiste showed up at Build, I'm sure you saw, in the day 2 keynote, and delivered what I thought was the best part of the entire thing. And he really spelled out the phases in which AI capabilities will be added to Microsoft's products over time. And the first phase, which is what we're in now, the Copilot phase, is what they think of as the besides UI. And the idea here is we have this existing UI, and then AI is beside it. And that's, the Copilot's like a sidebar. And the next phase is where it's integrated. And I think that's Windows 12 on the Windows side. I think that's the way you delineate this. And because I talked about it, I was hoping for some mention of Windows 12. We didn't get that at Build, but I think that this Stevie Batiste thing was as close as we're going to get. Or, well, it's over, so it is the closest we're going to get. But I feel like this was the implicit announcement that we're going to do things that are beside the stuff we have now, and then we're going to do integrated. And to your point, I think it's Windows 12.
We'll see.
Yeah, we will see.
I think we're about a year away from finding out.
Yeah, I would
still
really
hope to hear earlier, but
yeah, Windows 11 was so rushed, and I think the only excuse you could make for that is that it was basically just a UI refresh. So okay, I still think it's wrong not to give people enough time to provide feedback to impact the product, and I feel like a UI refresh undersells the fact that they've ripped out the existing front end UI to taskbar and start menu and replaced it with new code that is completely untested, unproven, and functionally regressive. So, okay, whatever. Given that experience, though, I would hope that with Windows 12, which, bigger deal, right? AI was just like fundamental stuff. I hope they give us more time to prepare for that. And maybe like a late October or late fall, like an October type timeframe thing when they might release 23H2 would be the time to say, hey, by the way, there will be a Windows 11 24H2, but there's also going to be a Windows 12 24H2, that kind of thing.
It's nice to want things.
Well, yes, that's true. Logic and Microsoft really intersect.